YouTube channel. If you aren't already, subscribe and like my videos to keep up with me and Brinley and David. Anyways, today I'm going to be doing a story time video about something that a lot of people don't actually know about me. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So this is going to be my gallbladder removal story, and I'm gonna kind of like get into detail because a lot of people don't even know that like gallstones are like a thing because they aren't very common, I don't believe. I think that's what they told me. I don't know. But anyways, so it was just like, it was it was while I was pregnant. So they only started when I was pregnant. Like I only found out that I had them when I was pregnant. So I was pregnant with Brinley probably only about like 15 or 16 weeks, something like that. And I was at my friend's house and we were watching a movie, and all of a sudden my back just like started hurting, and I was like, what the heck? And it was hurting so bad, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And so I was like, I'm gonna go on a walk. Like, I don't know why I thought to go on a walk, but I went on a walk and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I like went back to the house, and just like throughout the day it just kept getting worse and worse. And then I was at a point where I was like in the fetal position, and I was like crying, and I would call my grandma. My grandma's like my holy grail. She knows everything, and so I call her constantly. And so I called my grandma and I let her know like what was happening, and she was like, try different positions, I don't know. And then it just kept getting worse and worse and worse to the point where I couldn't stand it, I couldn't breathe. And so my friend took me to the hospital, and she lived kind of far away from where I lived and where my grandma lived and David lived and stuff. And so David was working, and I was at my friend's house, and so she took me to the hospital, which was probably about 40 minutes away from where David was and where my grandma was. And so we got to the hospital. I checked in. I'd never been to this hospital before, and I was just like crying and throwing up and everything. And I was in the waiting room for so long. I think it was like 2 hours I was in the waiting room. And then my grandma finally showed up, and I was just like, I kept falling asleep on them. And I remember the only thing that I would even get like a tiny bit of relief from is if I was bent over like to a sink and just like running my hands through hot water. And I don't know why that helps, but it was like the hotter the water was, like the better it was. And my hands were like bright red because I was like sticking my hands in burning hot water. But it was the only thing that would help me. And so finally they bring me in, and I'm like trying to explain to them what's going on, and they were like, okay, that's really weird, I don't know what it is. And so they just did a bunch of tests on me, and they gave me morphine, and so I was pretty loopy at that point, and I felt so much better. And then they came back and they were like, okay, well, we can't find anything like that's wrong with you, so I'm just gonna say maybe you have like kidney stones, and we're gonna do tests for kidney stones and stuff. And so then they did, and they couldn't find anything. And so they were like, okay, well, is it gone now? I was like, well, yeah, because I'm on morphine. But they did not diagnose me, and I basically went home not knowing anything. And I was like, okay. My back and my stomach and everything being so sore like that, and like the shots that they were giving me, I was so sore the next day. Like so sore. Like I had just had surgery or something. And so I had a heating pad on me. It was like 3 or 4 days until I could like walk again. It was so bad, and they didn't diagnose me. And so it was kind of like a little crazy because like if I'm in that much pain, they should have diagnosed me. But they literally couldn't find anything wrong. And so yeah, fast forward a few weeks, and I'm terrified. If I have like a tiny little twinge in my back, okay, this is gonna be TMI, but I knew it was gonna happen when I felt like I had to like go to the bathroom. And I would be like terrified when I felt that way because like it was awful. I can't even explain how awful it was. So I think like 4 or 5 weeks goes by, and then it's David's birthday, and he was like, he's always been like a ice cream fanatic. Like he loves ice cream. He's an ice cream fiend. And so he wanted to go to Leatherby's, which is like just basically an ice cream place, and it's huge. And so we went to Leatherby's and we got like lunch, and it was like really fatty. It was probably like some chicken fingers and like, I don't even remember, something like that, and then like ice cream and brownies and cookies and stuff. And on the way home, I threw it all up and it started happening again. I had him pull over on the freeway so I could just like die in the front seat. Like, it was awful. It hurt so bad. And so I think, did I go to the hospital that day? No, I don't think I went to the hospital because it passed kind of fast. So it was like probably like 30 minutes long. We sat on the side of the freeway and I was just like crying and trying to find different positions to get myself in to like, and I was throwing up and it was just so bad. So I didn't go to the hospital that time. Just when I got home, I took a really hot bath and it felt like better. We were gonna go to the hospital, but it started to feel better, and so that was that time. And then it happened again. After that, it actually didn't happen. I'm trying to think. Actually, no, it happened like a few more times, but they were like small. And so like I just didn't really do anything about them. I didn't go to the hospital. Nothing had happened. And then finally, so I've had these attacks, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I had these attacks 5 times, and some of them were really big and some of them were really small, but I only went to the hospital twice. And then the second time I went to the hospital, basically they just put me on morphine and they were like, there's nothing wrong with you, like, I don't know what it is. And they didn't diagnose me again. And so after that, I went to the hospital one more time, and I was like in horrible pain. I told them, I'm not leaving here until you find out what's wrong with me. So they did ultrasounds, they did MRIs, they did CAT scans, they did literally everything that they could to find out what was wrong with me. And finally, they found out that I had gallstones the size of baseballs and golf balls inside my gallbladder. And the lining of my gallbladder, so like your gallbladder's like this, and all these balls are basically inside. So your gallbladder helps you digest fatty foods. Sorry, Brindley was crying and my phone rang and a bunch of things just happened. Anyways, so your gallbladder helps digest fatty foods. So if your gallbladder isn't functioning correctly, then all of your fatty foods will be stored in there and not digested out of it. And so it'll create basically like stones, and just like kidney stones, but they're in your gallbladder. And they trigger gallbladder attacks, which is where it's basically just like, I don't really know how to explain why it does it, but you can like read up on it. I don't even remember, but now that I don't have it anymore, I don't care. But yeah, so I had gallstones and they gave me really, really bad attacks, and I'm telling you right now that my gallbladder attacks were worse than like childbirth. Like, I would rather go through childbirth 10 times than have one of those gallbladder attacks. So anyways, it was like probably, let's see, Bryn was like 4 months old, I think, was the last time that I had one. And basically when I went to the doctor last time, they just said that you can have your gallbladder removed. We'll schedule an appointment. But I had people in my family that were telling me, like, you don't want to have your gallbladder removed if you don't have to. So drink like a lot of apple cider vinegar to gellify the stones to pass them faster. And so I did that and nothing was working, but I wasn't really having any attacks. So I kind of just like let it go. And so I like went through my entire pregnancy, the rest of my pregnancy, I had Brinley, and then 4 months after she was born, I had, I had friends over, well, I had like, yeah, friends over trying on a prom dress of mine to like borrow for proms. I don't know. Bryn was like 4 months old, and, I felt like I had to go to the bathroom while they were here, and I was like, oh God, like, it's happening. And it was the first time I had one after I already had Brinley. So I go to the bathroom and it starts happening, and I'm like fully clothed. I just washed my hair, so it's in a bun on the top of my head, and I just like run the bath and I just sit in it and just like drown myself in hot, hot, hot water. And it was just getting worse and worse and worse. And I was like sitting up, just like screaming at the top of my lungs, just like, I can't do this. And then finally I stopped. I wouldn't be able to breathe. And so I got out of the bath. Like, David helped me out of the bath while this girl is in my house. Like, I know her, but like, she didn't know anything, so I like traumatized her basically. And, sit, Bryn. Yeah, so I like get out of the bath and he like helps me get dressed and stuff. I'm like, I need to go to the hospital. Like, I can't breathe. It was so bad. So he puts my like underwear and bra and I robe on, I believe, and then I walk out of the bathroom and Brinley's in her swing. He put her in her swing and I fainted. Like, on the ground, I fainted. And then I think what happened after that was like I woke up a little bit and everybody was like holding on to me at once and picking me up and getting like my purse and stuff and everything ready and putting me into the car and putting the baby in the car. And so we all got in the car. Like, I don't remember any of this. I'm barefoot. My hair is literally drenching me. I was soaked. I was pretty much naked. It was so bad. And so thankfully the hospital is only 2 minutes away from my house. And so we got into the car and we went into the hospital and I fainted on the way there because the pain was so bad. And then I woke up and he walked me inside, and while I was in there, I was screaming at the top of my lungs, just like crying and screaming and stuff. And I know most of the ladies in there because it's such a small town. And they were just like, oh my God, like, what is going on? What's wrong? And David was like freaking out at this point. He was like, I don't know. She needs help. She needs help. And then they were like, okay, just what's her birthday? And he was like, you know, like, you have so much on your mind, you can't even like speak. And so finally he tells him my birthday and tells him all my information, and they get me in a room so fast and put me on medication. And so it was like 30 minutes. Well, we stayed in the waiting room probably like 3 minutes. And then after that I went into the room and I was just like dying. It hurt so bad. And I fainted again in the room, and they came in and I woke up and there was IVs in me. I had an oxygen mask on. And my doctor came in and he was like, Zoe, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Zoe? And I was like, and he was like, we're rushing you to surgery. And I was like, okay. And I like didn't know what to do. And then literally like the next thing I know, I'm in this room with like bright lights on me, and the lady's like, how are you feeling? And I was like, I'm okay, because I had an IV in me with morphine giving me like medication, so I wasn't like hurting so bad. So I was okay. And they were like, do you understand what's happening? And I was like, I think so. Like, you guys are putting me in surgery. Like, am I getting my gallbladder removed? And they were like, yeah, like, you need your gallbladder out right now. And so I was like, okay. And so, I like laid down on the bed. I was already like laid down on the bed and all these lights are on me. And I remember they were like, okay, like, just close your eyes. You're going to go to sleep. And being put down terrifies me because I like see it in the movies, and like my grandma had an experience where she wasn't all the way put down and she could feel everything, and I was just like terrified. And so I was like, oh my God, what if I don't fall asleep? And then, you know, I did. I fell asleep. And the next thing I know, I like woke up and I was in extreme pain from my surgery. And I mean, like, a bunch of stuff happened before this. Like, I took off all my jewelry and they like talked to me, but like I barely remember it because I was so like not, like, I didn't really come to very fast. And so yeah, the first thing I did was like call for David and call for my friend, because my friend was working at the hospital at the time as an ROP student, and so I like wanted them to come see me, and I was in so much pain. And then they took me back to the room, and then finally I was like, I stayed the night there, and then the next morning I woke up and I wasn't in as much pain because I was on medication. I could like breathe again. I could understand what was going on. So finally my doctor came in to talk to me, and she was like, no, it was he came in and he was like, okay, so what happened was your gallstones got so bad that they were overfilling your gallbladder, and the lining of your gallbladder was so infected that it was thinning out, and if you would have waited any longer to come to the hospital, your gallbladder would have erupted inside of you and you would have died. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's insane. Like, you never know that something's so bad. Like, I knew something was wrong because I was in so much pain, but you never know, like, it's gonna be that bad. And he was like, so We took your gallbladder out. You had gallstones the size of a baseball in there. And like a baseball inside your stomach, that's huge. Like that's huge. And so, or maybe it wasn't a baseball. No, I think it was a golf ball. Sorry. I think your gallbladder is the size of a baseball. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I feel like it was a golf ball, not a baseball. But yeah, they were big, big gallstones, and they were just like tearing up the lining of my gallbladder. And so thank God they got it out and everything, and then I just like stayed at the hospital. I think it was a day. Well, I stayed there 2 days until I could like get up and walk. So they just had me in the hospital, and I was just like basically like gaining up my strength, and I'll input pictures of my incisions. I think I only have one actually, and it's my belly button, and it was so bruised. I'll input that at the end of this video. But it was the most scary experience of my life. Like, childbirth was terrible for me, but that was so much worse, and I don't ever want to experience it again, which I won't because I don't have a gallbladder. But yeah, that's the time I almost died. So thank you so much for watching. Sorry that this was kind of a long video. So yeah, subscribe to my channel and like my videos and turn on the bell so that you are notified anytime that I post. And I will see you guys in my next video. Alright, thanks for watching.